Nikkei Asia News Roundup
with Jada and Brian. Welcome to the Nikkei Asia News Roundup with your hosts Jada and Brian,
bringing you the latest updates and insights on the dynamic world of Asia and more.
Now let's delve into the headlines. This program is brought to you by Nikkei.
Cambodia's tourism industry says businesses are struggling to recover since the pandemic, despite the return of visitors, as people seem to not be traveling to the same locations that were popular in 2019.
Vietnam has postponed a planned increase to its value-added tax for the third time, a move that reflects the weakness of the country's domestic consumption, despite rosy economic numbers.
The Indonesia Stock Exchange has invited foreign participants to join its carbon trading, saying the certification mechanism has been improved following tepid activities on the IDX carbon bourse last year.
A historic discovery of Buddha statues and other valuable artifacts in Laos has sent tourists from near and far to a small village in Southeast Asia's Golden Triangle, with hopes of seeing remnants of what some believe are from an ancient lost city.
Tens of thousands of garment workers in Bangladesh lost their jobs in 2024, as more than 100 apparel and other factories either shut their doors or halted operations, casting a dark shadow over the country's economy.
Chinese and U.S. overseas investment is diverging further, increasing the likelihood that the global economy will divide into two blocks centered on the rival superpowers, economists say. Now moving on to the next segment.
Fashionable Paris falls for Japanese designs. From everyday items to folk art and crafts, Japanese home goods are capturing the imagination of Parisians. Shops dedicated to homeware made in Japan are sprouting up around the city, mixing slick modernism and traditional handicrafts in a reflection of Parisians' taste for high-end lifestyle items, inspired by alluring images of Japan. In the French capital's trendy Marais district, known for avant-garde art galleries and fashion-forward inhabitants, Japan is everywhere to be seen. Along the cobbled streets, cafes reminiscent of Tokyo's hippest areas surround curry shops with cool decor and vintage boutiques featuring items by top fashion designers like Yohji Yamamoto. Just a stone's throw from the iconic Louvre Museum is Irashai, a store that contains a delicatessen, a cafe, a tableware and cookbook shop, as well as a restaurant. The spaces, while modern, inspire nostalgia, creating an escapist ambiance. The capital's hottest concept stores, too, are packed with Japanese imports. Retailers say everyday objects are loved for their simplicity, while Japanese interiors are appealing for being beautifully sober. The Made in Japan label has a strong following in France because Japanese design is considered sophisticated, yet understated.
Thailand aims to make waves in booming luxury yacht sector. Thailand's luxury yacht sector is flourishing after wealthy residents caught the sailing bug during the COVID-19 pandemic. Now shipyards, marinas, yacht brokers, and tax consultants are all riding the wave. Yacht traffic at key marinas in Phuket, Koh Samui, and Pattaya grew 63% from 2022 to 2024, with more than 2,000 trips in and out of Phuket alone. The global luxury yacht market was valued at $8.75 billion in 2024 and could reach $17.3 billion by 2032. According to Fortune Business Insights. Asia-Pacific is the fastest-growing region thanks to rising incomes, maritime tourism, and government incentives. Hoping to tap that growth, Thailand's government is revamping regulations to attract high-spending sailors to its shores. The Transport Ministry will reduce the size requirement for a yacht charter license to 24 meters from 29 meters, expanding the inventory of pleasure boats available for day trips or week-long tours.
And now for news highlights. In each episode, Jada and I have a discussion about a recent article that has particularly captured our attention.
And today we'd like to talk about how Australian universities are facing a squeeze as Canberra clamps down on visas. So this has been a big deal for international students, right?
This is a story that I have not really paid much attention to, but gets really deep the more you look into it. So international education, higher education in Australia is very popular. It is, according to our stats, it is Australia's fourth largest export.
Yes, it's above gold.
Above gold and just behind natural gas and coal. The industrial things, digging up dirt and selling it.
What Australia is known for, really.
Yeah, but then there's higher education because it is... A lot of students opt to go to Australia for English language higher education as opposed to, say, the United States or Canada or Britain, which are the other big options. And it accounts something like, Australia's university population, nearly 1/3 of them are international. And they also pay more fees.
Yeah, a double, triple sometimes.
Double
right?
or triple. So it accounts for a lot of these institutions. It's a significant chunk of revenue. But here's the big deal, is that there is a moves to clamp down on this.
Yeah, because I think we've talked about this before on our podcast, but Australia is facing a housing crisis. Rents are soaring. People are having to live together, right? So.
Yeah, and one of the reasons being cited for this is that cash-rich international students are gobbling up real estate and raising the general prices. That's one of the arguments, because there has been legislation in the works in Australia last year to cap the number of student visas, to raise the fees on student visas, in a general crackdown that's become very political.
Yeah, because, some people are saying this whole thing of bringing international students in is an immigration scam, warping housing and labor markets. That's pretty extreme, but it seems like a lot of political crisis happening with this, especially with the general election coming up. It's been a key policy for both sides, really. Yeah,
there's a couple key deadlines coming up, and one of them is that general election you're mentioning has to happen by May. But also the academic year is starting up in Australia. So it's a question of students are wondering if they can actually continue their education. And so it's a wait and see for some people, but a lot of people are, especially these higher education institutions, are wondering about what's going to happen to their business models. Because this accounts, I said, about how it's considered the fourth highest export product in the country. It accounts for $30 billion in revenue in Australia and over 300,000 jobs.
Wow.
So if something happens that makes it harder for students to get in and obtain student visas, this could have a significant impact on a lot of different aspects of the economy.
And the universities themselves are kind of having to decide what to do, because the government is saying, you need to clamp down more, but that obviously is going to affect their revenue, reduce their revenue, and a lot of them are already in operating deficit. So that's just going to, make their financial strain even worse.
And that's a fascinating thing that a while back there was a bill proposed to limit the number of international students and student visas, and it was rejected on one side of the political aisle for not being strict enough, and on the other side of the political aisle for being too strict, basically. So it's a very complicated situation.
Yeah, and the top international students who are going to Australia is China and India. So obviously a lot of wealthy students from there, and they're choosing, for India, they really can't go to Canada because of the international spat they're having between India and Canada.
The ongoing situation there as well.
Yeah, so Australia has kind of been the alternative destination. And then Australia is Asia Pacific's leading study destination, but I thought it was interesting that South Korea is the second, and then it's China and Japan. So Japan's the fourth largest, but one of my friends, he went to South Korea instead of Japan because he just thought, he knew that afterwards, after going out of university, he would have a higher paying job compared to Japan, which is very true. So those sort of things are, affecting how international students choose their destination.
That is another interesting aspect. Remove the business side of it. There is the concept of soft power.
Yeah.
And having international students study and live and come to love Australia is a huge benefit for Australia in terms of just international prestige.
Yeah.
And you're mentioning that, how like Japan is very popular these days around the world, but it's kind of low on the list there of people where you want to study. And so that does affect the image people have of places. And so it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in the next few months.
And that brings us to the close of today's episode.
We look forward to having you join up again for the next edition of the Nikkei Asia News Roundup.
Stay informed, stay curious. Until next time, I'm Jada.
And I'm Brian. See you again, and take care. This program is brought to you by Nikkei.